morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the hearing to order. I will begin by acknowledging that we're in Treaty 1 territory in the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. My name is Ron Merritt. I'll be your chairperson this morning. Introducing the panel members is Mr. Ivan Gallego to my left, and to his left is Gisela Rempel. And representing the city from the assessment department is Mr. Daichin Ramsawat. And our recording secretary is Belen Rojo. To those people that haven't been here before, I'll just read you what is probably going to be going on this morning. Come on in. I'm going to read something, but because of we have people standing, we're going to deal with 95 John Madden Place, so that person can come. Are they here? You can come up here, and we can have you sit there for the time being. And we'll just do the formalities, okay? We'll be hearing applications for the revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested has been described in each application, and we'll limit discussions to those matters. The statements that the applicant or the assessor make at the hearing are sworn testimony, and anybody speaking in these matters must be sworn in. Comparisons of assessment values are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it, along with the city administration. We make our decisions based on the evidence provided at the hearing and issue a written order that will mail to that will be mailed to you as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision in respect to application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, the information on how to do this will be included in the board's order. In respect to the hearing, we will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant. Following the swearing in, we will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the other applicant may have, and then it will be the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each party will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish, and once all evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket this morning. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. I'll ask our secretary to swear in the assessor and to swear in the applicant.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please stand. You have the option to swear in on the Bible or to affirm without it. Please state your full name.
I, Dan Boone.
And you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Do you have any evidence you'd like to share with the panel?
I do.
You could leave it open, sure, because it might be a little warm in here. All right, good morning, sir. We will first hear from the assessor in regards to what, how they evaluated your property, and you may ask questions along with family members.
Excellent, thank you.
Mr. Daichin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. one moment, Mr. Chairman, for your moment.
Yep.
Just want to look through what I expect you to know or hear or see. Okay. Now, in respect to the subject property at 95 John Mann Place, phone number 04-007-086-500. Now, this is a two-story home. I'll read a brief description of the subject property. Two-story home built in 2011. Has a walkout basement. 1,883 square feet with a basement that is developed. 7,256 square feet is the size of the lot and it's backing onto retention pond. We have a $537,000 as an assessed value for this property. Now, as I looked into it here, I saw that the property actually was sold to the appellant for $495,000. You would see that, and that was in 2015. You would note that as we go on, a couple of the comparables with a time adjusted sale price are the $490,000 and $493,000. That was a 2017 sale. One was in January 2017, the other one actually was in 2016. So what comes to my mind here is that if you're looking at properties, two properties there that were sold in 17 and 16, and the subject property was sold in 2015, it was suggesting to me then that at that point in time there got to be something to do with quality. In other words, market participants at that time would be paying in 2017 and 2016 for a property that would likely have perhaps similar quality or one that was sold a year before. So when we see properties that were sold afterwards for as much or lower than the property or the subject property was sold for 2 years prior or a year prior, then we have to start thinking that one has to be better than the other one. So we keep that in mind. Alright, having said that, the four comparables that we have here to actually support the subject property, I'm going to read a little bit about it. Comparable number 1 is 78 Angel Edwards Drive, two-story, single family, built in 2015. 1,995 square feet, which is about 100 square feet larger. And it also has a finished basement with a similar size of lot, $586,000. Here we look at a property that is higher than that is subject property. So we must take into consideration there is got to be some superiority. The property in fact was sold and was sold for higher than that of the subject property. 2 years later, this one is in March 2018. Now, you would notice also that there was no time adjustment in that because that's very close to the reference date of April 1st, 2018, as we would in all of the other properties when we need to get the assessment value or valuation on that date. Comparable number 2 on the same street on Angela Evans. Again, it's a two-story single-family home. It is about 150, 160 square feet larger. It has similar qualities or characteristics, except that this one does not have a finished basement, and so therefore we have to make some concession for that basement. Lot size is virtually the same, and it is $518,000. So here I ask you to take in consideration that when you add a rec room to that and make that similar to that of the subject property in terms of the basement, make a little note there that the subject property is a little bit smaller, and then we can account for the difference in value, and so therefore at $518,000 that seems to be fair, a fair comparison. Comparable number 3 is on 19 Margaret Swan Drive. Again, it's a two-story home built in 2017, slightly newer. It is 150 square feet, perhaps 170, is more like 168 square feet, smaller than that of the subject property, $490,000. When we take into account that it's a smaller property, and I pointed out to you the possibility of a condition or more like quality difference, $490,000 is the time adjustment for that one. Comparable number 4, 26 Angela Edwards, two-story, 2160 square feet with a walkout basement, no finished basement, so an adjustment will be made for both the size and the fact that it doesn't have a basement. Fortunately, well, the lot size is slightly larger, but I wouldn't make any adjustment for that. You'd see $493,000, make adjustment for the walkout basement and possible quality, and that one is at $493,000. So why then $537,000? Again, we talked about quality, possible. And $495 is the time adjusted price and so on. We have it at $437,000. Now, I want to point out, Mr. Chairman, that I did make a phone call to and I left a message for the appellant. Unfortunately, he either didn't get it or was away. I called him to want to discuss it, and I've done some research to suggest what the actual adjusted sale price would be for this specific property in 95 on John Mann, and it came up to $525,000. So we'll take that also into consideration, and that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the assessor's presentation? Any questions?
I do have a couple of questions. One, you mentioned quality. Are you making assumptions then in
I am, yes.
quality?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. So knowing that the house was already assessed previously, would you not assume the previous assessment would have already factored
No,
those things in?
I would not assume that that is the case. The reality is that every case is done what we call the novo. In other words, new evidence is presented, and it's for the specific date of April 1st, 2018, where the other one is 2016. And we get this variation from time to time when values are different, when even average prices are different based on certain changes that are being made either to this property, the subject property, or the other comparables or properties that have been sold. So no, we don't take into consideration what the previous assessment was.
So you mentioned that you're thinking one could be better than the other, but you don't know for sure, and you don't take the previous assessment into consideration.
Well, we don't take the previous assessment and determine the assessment 2 years later on based on previous assessment. No. Every year when the assessments are being done, new models are being developed, and therefore we take up the sales for those last, say, 2 years, the previous 2 years, reaching up to April 1st, 2018, and then we use those sales, the quality, the characteristics, and all the market evidence to determine the value of all the other properties afterwards.
Okay. Can you also tell me what is the formula you use for determining the value of a home that's adjacent to a pond and with a walkout basement relative to one that isn't?
Well, market evidence would suggest that a property that's got a walkout basement has that extra feature that another one wouldn't have, and typically there is a cost to it. And more importantly is market evidence. Market is always paying more for a property that has a walkout basement and a retention pond. Now, further to that, properties on retention pond, when we talk about location, we typically consider the land value in terms of location, what people are paying typically, and the land value for properties on retention pond, they can run plus or minus $75,000 higher than the one opposite.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. DeLego?
No questions.
Gisela?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I am wondering, I'm looking at the comparisons of the other homes to the subject home, and I notice that they're all in another area. They're in Peguis, they're not in Grassy. I'm just wondering what the reason for that might
Well,
be.
the reason for that is that first of all, what I would attempt to do it's sort of like when we're trying to get the properties that are highly similar, what are the most important features? Now, if you look at it, we see the most important thing naturally would be trying to get the properties that are in the immediate area. And if it's not, and if it's close by, it's comparable area, then that is justified. Secondly, we want to determine that the properties must be the same style. As you can see, it must be a two-story home. In this case, they all are two-story homes. I would never compare two different styles. I would not compare a one-story home with a two-story home. At least I don't see a reason for doing that. Then what we look at the age. If the age must be very close, they're not going to be all the same, but they're close enough. So we can know that if there's any changes, any condition and so on, we can, in reconciliation process, we'll take it into consideration. Then we look at the size of the home, very close, right? They're never going to be the same size. We make adjustments for that. And in this case, we have properties with walkout basement, 3 of them here got walkout basement, comparable number 3 that doesn't, so therefore there is going to be an adjustment for that. So clearly we can see then that when we make, as you look at it this way, these are the most important characteristics and most features. What you don't see here is quality, and we do know that from time to time people sometimes pay extra for quality. Some of them say, well, this is a base model, we're happy with that. Other times people want an upgrade. So again, what I mentioned to you, that this property was bought in 2015 for $495,000. When we have other properties, mind you, these ones here apparently they were probably sold brand new. If you notice the years, the last 2 are being built, 2017 and 2016 respectively, and so they were sold 2017 and 2016 respectively, which means they would likely sell to the same owner, right? At which point in time, I can see that more than likely they're going to have such things as landscaping and those kinds of features. All of that will be taken into consideration, that although we're looking at the lower values, it doesn't mean that lower values would not need an adjustment to come up close to that of the subject property.
So, am I understanding you correctly that you do not think that there are other properties that are similar in the Grassy area that were sold in the assessment period?
You can take that for granted.
Okay. The other thing I am wondering is, you indicate in your synopsis that this subject property was built in 2011, and I notice all the other properties have been built subsequent to that. They're newer than the subject property. Is this, I'm not familiar with this area, is this a fairly new area that we're talking about here?
Well, you know, if you look at it, the age, the time that the houses were being built, you know that was the time that the area was being developed, or certainly streets was being developed, or the retention pond, whatever you can know from the age of the houses. So naturally, the one on Grassy would be 2011, and subsequently the other ones a few years later.
Okay, thank you. I'm also wondering, one final question. You said you were attempting to contact the appellant, and that you were thinking that maybe $525,000 might be a fairer assessment for his property. Am I understanding that correctly?
And yes, you are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple questions. Is there a difference between, as Ms. Rempel had said, is there a difference from across the street from Grassy to the other comparables that you're looking at? I noticed that she had mentioned that one was built, the subject was built in 2011, and the rest of them have, four and more years past that time. So it's a more developed area across the way.
Now, what I was referring to, I don't know if you can see this far, the circle that I have here is representing the retention pond, right? and the two lines that I have here will represent the street. So the ones, those marks that I have here would be the lots. And the lots that are actually backing onto the pond are typically plus or minus 75,000. I've seen properties are $100,000 almost on the retention pond that are higher than the ones opposite. That's what I mean. So what I'm also saying here is that when I see that the properties that each of them are on the retention pond, as in this case, then values for the location are going to be highly similar.
I can see that all of them back onto a retention pond. So the only one that's just a little different is comparable 3,
No,
which
without
doesn't
the
have a walkout
Without,
basement.
and also, yes, without a walkout basement there.
Was this a custom-built house or anything like that? Do you know who the builder
I
is?
didn't do that much research
Okay.
to know if the subject was custom built or not. I don't know if there's a track builder or custom built. I have no idea.
All right, I thank you.
Sometimes we don't get time to check in details,
Okay.
everything, not unless you reach the municipal board.
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. So I'll answer that question. It's not a custom home. It's a Kensington stock-built home. There are no extra quality finishes in the home. I got laminate counters, standard cupboards. In terms of making assumptions that the quality of the home is at a higher level, those would be inaccurate assumptions. If you take a look at the package that I provided in front of you, if I take a look at my assessment history, 2014, the assessed value of the home was $456. I think the original sale of the home was $429 when it was sold in 2012. 2016 assessed value was $487. And I actually met in front of the Board of Revision at that time, so thank you for meeting with me again, because at that time, for whatever reason, they had tried to jack the value up to $522,000.
Which year was that again?
That was in 2000, end of 2017 was when I met in front of the board, because I just purchased, after I purchased the home, no, 2016.
Okay.
So, end of 2016. So then we had adjusted to 487, which still was plus 6.8% increase in value. In 2008, or roughly a few months, or 2018, when the assessment rolls came in, which was a few months after the Board of Revision decision, I got another assessment almost immediately, which I thought was kind of odd, but it was explained to me that it happens every 2 years, whether or not you went just in front of the board or not. At that time, they assessed the home at $505, and I went to a community hearing actually with Dutchin himself at one of the community centers, and he provided, and I believe it's on the last page of your package, to show that my property percentage change for time adjusted sale was 4%, yet the market region value change was 1%. And I asked Dutchin, well, why am I being assessed at 4% when the region that I'm in, Grassy, was only 1% increase? Dutchin at the time, I wrote down the quote, but you couldn't answer that question. You weren't able to provide any specifics. And at that time, you did lower the assessment by $5,000 because you said that that was all you were capable of in that type of meeting. Which brought it down to a 2.7% increase, at which time I didn't want to pursue it any further. I was, because of that and the time it takes to prepare and come to the Board of Assessment, or Board of Revision. And then 2020 assessed value, you can see that assessed value is now $537, so an increase of $37,000, which is plus 7.4%, which now that certainly makes it worth my while to come and speak in front of the Board of Revision, because I'm not sure how we got to a 7.4% increase on my property. And I'm not sure, am I still able to ask questions, or do I get to finish presenting?
No, you were presenting.
Finish presenting and then, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I forgot to ask how or what the market region assessment of value is, but maybe we can cover that off after the fact. I do know as well, looking at the city's own information, it states on the value of residential and condominium properties, 2020 general assessment, time adjustments, it says sales used to establish the values of all residential condominium properties are time adjusted to April 1st, 2018. The city of Winnipeg has seen little change in value for both residential and condominium properties from April 1st, 2016 to April 1st, 2018. Residential properties have slightly increased by approximately 0.15% per month, whereas condominiums have even smaller increase, averaging 0.013. Even if I took that formula that the city has provided based on 24 months times 0.15, I'd be at a 3.6% increase, not a 7.4% increase. In the package as well, I've provided, if you look at the, I believe it is, well, sorry, I'll talk about the home description summary of actual sales. So in 2014, this was based on two-story homes, similar in size, average 1,849 average square feet. They were average sale price for all the homes sold in Grassy in that range, 2 stories, was $404,546. In 2015, that was $410,000, and then in 2016, it dropped to $402,000. So there was an actual 0.5% decrease from 2014 to 2016 when you take a look at time-adjusted sale price. Again, I presented that information to Dutchin at the time and said, what happens when you see an increase? And Dutchin at that time, he told me, well, if there is a decrease, we can't take that into account, which led me to believe that I don't believe a assessment has ever provided where even if the market drops, that the property assessment actually goes down. If I take a look at the properties on John Mann specifically with a walkout basement that have sold over the last number of years, you can see the average there, but you can also see that the max selling price for any home sold since 2012 along the adjacent to the pond on John Mann netted $505,000. So firmly don't believe that I could sell my home anywhere close to $537,000 at this particular time. And then additional property comparisons, which I've included in the package. Probably one that most relative, you can see 47 John Mann Place, which is pretty much adjacent to the park and to the pond. It's 2,097 square feet, finished basement as well. It just sold in 2017 for $448,000. You can see the details of that property in there. And then you look at a number of other properties that I've included under comparables around John Mann, and then Reg Wyatt, Domia, Tyconic, Philip Lee, and John Neufeld. So Philip Lee and John Neufeld are in the new area that Dutchin presented his comparables. The other properties are in the Grassy area. The last piece that I want to share is, and this is why I asked the question of why or how the difference between homes that have walkout and adjacent to the pond versus those that aren't. If you look at the data, and I know Dutchin said anywhere from 75 to 100,000 he's seen up to, but I believe I've seen as little as 40,000. I believe my lot was $40,000 more than the lot across the street, or similar lots across the street when they were purchased. I don't have the exact data on those. But the assessor, and I believe that the same assessor assesses all properties and is assigned to a region. But if you look at the 11 properties adjacent to the pond versus the 11 properties across the street, and the 11 properties across the street are all similar in terms of their 2 stories, similar in size. They just don't have walkout basements and not adjacent to the pond. But the average assessed value is over $125,000 higher for the ones across the street than the ones on the other side. So, which is again the reason why I was asking why or how they make that comparison. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions of the applicant?
Give me a moment, please, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go through some very quick things here.
Mr. Chair, can I leave for a while? I have to add.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right, thank you.
Sorry.
What I heard, Mr. Chairman, is evidence is a lot about some of these properties where I know nothing about except I see a size and I see an age and I see a value. I have no idea about other features of the property, whether or not they are built on, some of these are retention pond or not, to know the difference. One thing I noticed here, so I'd like to ask then, you used averages a lot. And I don't know that you should ask that question, but Mr. Chairman, I'm going to use this moment here as a means of using
Can
a
you
summary.
just
Yeah, I'm thinking.
ask
I'm
a
thinking
question?
I'm thinking about the
Are-
question. You see,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I ask why you use an average, I don't know that I'll get an answer for that, because typically,
Well, you know,
I don't get
this
that.
is not sort of a summary, this is just
now I
the
understand that.
questions
Mr.
in regards
I
to
understand that,
his
Mr. Chairman.
presentation.
So the question I'm going to ask you, sir, why do you use averages when you determine value of properties?
I used average to compare to the 7.4% increased value in my home. And I thought the best way to provide that comparison was show that the 7.4% assessed proposal that you had provided doesn't line up with what the average is and what the market is bearing in Grassy.
So you're assuming, sir, that that when we determine the values, we determine the values based on percentage increase?
I'm not assuming anything. I know factually that you increased the value of my assessment by 7.4%.
But you're assuming that we do it by percentage wise, or do you, by value? What do you think? Do you think that we determine the value of your property before the percentage, or we just determine that we're going to increase your home by 7%? I need to know how you're thinking.
Well, no, I think the assessed value was already provided based on previous sales of the home, and what my home would sell for, so what the actual value is, that's correct. So based on that value, then, you know, the comparative increase for the time-adjusted sale price, because that's what we're talking about, there's been no improvements to the home, so the only increase in value at this point should be time-adjusted sale price.
And you are right, I have to give it to you, because a lot of people don't quite understand. You are right about that, we have to determine the value. But the value is definitely determined on the characteristics and everything else. That's all the question I have to ask,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Mr. DeLego, questions?
Yes, so what do you feel is a fair number?
Well, what I'd like to go back to then is the, you know, at 47, add the 1% that should have been added in 2018, and then add the 3.6% that should have been added if that comparative number is correct. So it'd be 4.6% above $487,000, which to me would be a reasonable formula in calculating the time-adjusted sale price for the home.
Thank you.
Can you give us a number?
Oh, I sure can. I
If
can
you don't mind.
calculate that. You bet, sorry. $509,402.
Ms. Rempel, questions?
Yes, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. I see on the information that's been presented that the house was purchased in 2015. Did you purchase the home?
Yes,
And then you said that you had filed an appeal with the Board of Assessment in 2016, is that correct?
yes.
Or it was relating to the 2016?
When the 2016, I ended up getting 3 assessments in a very short period
Right.
time.
So at that time, the assessed value was dropped to 487.0 from the 495 that you had paid?
Yes,
And then, for 2018, it was raised to 500,000?
yes.
Okay, and now we're at 537. Have there been any upgrades to the home since you moved in 2015?
I like doing yard work, but other than planting a couple of shrubs and putting a garden in for my wife, no.
Okay, thank you very much.
I note that you've done quite a bit of homework here, and you have two sales on your street, number 47 and number 83.
Yeah,
The unfortunate part is number 83 is a bungalow.
yes.
But it still points the way, it's 505, eh?
Yeah. Now, I will tell you, when they listed that home, they originally listed it 530. Didn't sell, they relisted it for 510, and then finally sold it for 505. And it was on the market for a fair number of months.
And what can you tell us about number 47?
47, I would almost consider, Jay, if you look at the map, which is a number of, so all the details of 47 are actually in your packet. And
Is it similar to yours?
yeah, it's actually bigger than.
Yeah, I
than
see
mine.
that's a little bigger.
Yeah, I mean, my home is, it's 18 unit, 83, and this one is larger, actually.
Okay. Is John Madden, fairly big street or not?
No, it's called, if you look further on, you can see the map, so
Okay.
those are all the homes on John Mann, and, yeah, my home is right here, and then you can see the 47, which is the comparison one that I have.
So the high for the street is the 505,
The high for the street on any home that's sold,
other than in 13. There was a 505 in 13.
yeah.
All right, I thank you. Summation, if you like.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't often get a chance to do that. I'm gonna be careful that I only give you the evidence already presented. Well, we talked about earlier that the assessment for 1 year is not based on the previous year. And so we don't use a percentage from certainly 1 year to the next, regardless of what the evidence may have been presented earlier. The reality is that this being a de novo, a new sale whatsoever, Mr. Chairman, I ask that when you make your consideration that the previous assessment has no bearing in this assessment. It's only based on properties that have been sold and determined these ones here. That said, Mr. Chairman, the evidence presented by both appellant and myself on these other properties, I'm sure you're going to take it into consideration and match those that are highly similar. The point I want to make for my comparables, you keep in mind that in 2017 we had one property there on number 3 that was sold without a walkout basement. I know that they were sold for in their closer to $500,000 now. Yeah, that's about it, Mr. Chairman. The assessment from 1 year to the next, where we talked about that $487,000, whatever he would have talked about would have been based on, I don't know what year. You would figure that one out yourself, I'm sure. Thank you.
All right, final word, sir?
No, thank you for the opportunity to present. Again, I didn't walk through all the documents in the packet. I didn't feel I wanted to waste the board's time here. So, but there is documentation supporting those like properties in comparison to mine.
I thank you for coming this morning, and results very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to 206 Profanic Drive. You come forward to have you sworn in or affirmed with the one.
No, I was just gonna ask which number this was, because I have the same problem with Park on the Street.
All right. What property is yours?
I'm towards the bottom.
Towards the bottom?
75.
Go plug the meter.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to swear in on the Bible or affirm?
That's fine.
Please state your full name.
This one in Page.
And you have from the evidence about to present the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning to you both. So you're aware of,
Okay,
oh,
please
sorry.
state your full name.
Jeff Myers.
And you swear the evidence about to present the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God. Thank you.
You're aware of the procedure, so we'll have the assessor go through your property. The floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you. With respect to the property in 206 Park Panic, which is the subject property with the roll number 04 00715 0600. A brief description of the property on grassy, or in a grassy location. So one-story single-family home was built in 2011, and it is 2,074 square feet of the finished basement. 6,293 square feet is the lot size. The assessed value of $541,000. I'll make a point now, Mr. Chairman, to know, without even looking or knowing what the value of the property was, how much it is sold for, it is in fact a post-reference sale. And that's about as far as I discussed in that part. I would not emphasize anymore or elaborate on that. The properties, the 4 properties that I have here to determine an assessed value or fair market value of this property. 4 properties. The first one on 106 Park Panic, which would basically be on the same side of the street, and that one we have 2010, 1,930 square feet, 144 square feet smaller with a rec room and a slightly smaller lot size. $532,900 for comparable number 1. Comparable number 2 again on Park Panic. Wait a second here, I'm noticing here that I'm looking at it. Property was actually sold earlier, the same property. I didn't realize that until I'm looking at it right now, Mr. Chairman. So we have to ignore one of the 2. Let's ignore the second one, shall we? The second one was sold in second comparable was sold in 2016. The last one is 2000 and rather the first one is 2017. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. Let's concentrate only on that one, and I will not compare.
Well, they're both in there,
They're both in there.
so it sort of defeats your time adjustment.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is one of those ways. I mean, this is, you notice it being very
Yeah.
overtly here, you know.
Yeah. Just an observation.
Hmm?
Just an observation.
Yeah, observation. I'm very candid about this too. All right, so I ask that we look at the first one and not the second. All right, comparable number 3 then, which would be second comparable in a sense. 71 Brunca Place. 1 story, built in 2013, 1,840 square feet is a finished basement, and a slightly larger lot for $501,000. And the last one is on Tommy Douglas Drive, 100 Tommy Douglas Drive, built in 2010, much smaller, by about 400 square feet, and $438,000, doesn't have a basement. And that's the 3 comparables, I would say, and that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the assessor?
No, I guess we'll just re-note that the one property at 160 Panic, and we'll talk about that when we go through, went down $10,000 from one year to the next.
Mr. DeLego?
Yes, I see the sale price in 2019 at $514. So are you saying that it would jump by $30,000?
Which one are we talking about?
Oh, the sale price, 2019 was $500.
Well, it shouldn't be in there.
Yeah, I've noticed that, but you know, something that we can talk about but ignore it. We're not going to rely on it. No, what am I saying? I have to rephrase that. We're not going to use that to determine what the property should be worth today. We're just going to be using what the properties up to, including April 1st, 2018. This evidence and those of the evidence that the appellant will be presenting, which is probably here.
Okay.
Ms. Rimple?
No, I have no questions, thank you.
I should point out that some people have argued whether or not we should have that. I make it a point in my position, I'd like to see it there because it's a sale.
It's stated in there, however, like you say, it's post-reference, so, you know,
As long as you
yes
two,
and no.
as long as you two
Okay.
recognize that it's
Okay.
post-reference,
Yeah.
that's
We
important.
recognize, thank you,
Okay.
Dutchess.
Mhm.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'll start and my husband will jump in. So, we purchased the property for the $514,000. We bought the property. And then looking at the taxes, we have 3 key points that we'd like to address in terms of stating that it's not at fair market value. The first is the actual sales and comparables in Market Region 1 Grassy. So, like the assessor said, I looked through the 135 homes that had sold within that area from 2016 to 2018. There wasn't really any comparables except for that 160 per Bannock, which the assessor made note of and went down. That went down by $525,000 in July of 2017, reflecting a downward trend in the area when I compared the prices of the homes and what the area was going for and what the market would bear specific to this area. In regards to the comparable of 160 per Bannock, my husband and I actually looked at that home when it was for sale. So we have first-hand knowledge of the house as well as what it had in it. It was built to superior quality. In the sheet that we handed out, we identified some of the features that it had. It had many more upgrades and features. A 12-foot granite island with a wine rack in the kitchen, 2-sided cultural stone fireplace, steam shower and heated tile floors in the bathroom, additional fireplace in the basement, a wet bar with granite counters, and a dishwasher in the utility room, as well as granite on the laundry room with the cabinets in the basement. The home was actually built by Jeff and Megan Archibald, who are realtors and members of the community, and they wanted to build their dream home here. So that property is superior quality than any others, and that's why the high price. So with the exception of 160 per Bannock and one home that we actually talked about from the last fellow, that 47 John Mann, that was the only home, there was no other homes in our area that sold for $490,000. Our home is not on a lake at all. We are, but I'll get to that in a second. But the average, so the range in 2008 of the 7 homes that sold in the area was between $300,000 and $459,000, with the average sale price of $350,271. So you can see that the actual area isn't an extremely affluent area at all. Although we do have one of the larger homes in the area, then there's a maximum sale price any area can have, and in our area, we feel strongly that our house would not have reasonably sold for more than $495,000 in 2018. The second point that we want to make in terms of our house and why we feel it's unfairly assessed is because individual characteristics of the property or the area. Our home was developed on a street that was established 45 years ago. The street contains many older, lower value homes, many of which have not been updated or maintained. Our next door neighbor's house to us, which is at 198 per Bannock, is 31 years old and clearly shows its age. There's been no upgrades. We've been working with the fellow to even get the water problem resolved on his land. The house photos down for us, which is 180 per Bannock, is 46 years old and also has not been upgraded. There are many other older homes that have in the area, which devalues the property on the street. It's definitely not a homogeneous area, and that reduces its curb appeal and desirability for many folks who want to have a new suburban development. So that's
the development started about 11 years ago. This is the new development. I used to live backing onto this farmer's field, and three original homes are 41 years old, or 30 years old. They were all there, so they still have the old gravel driveways. They're not, no upgrades at all, that's just the property that they just decided they were gonna subdivide all their land and make a development out of it, and that's what they've done, and they built up newer homes around it. The other thing that is, if you look at the evidence was right in the first page here with the drawing of our lot, the comparables, what's missing on it is a line right down the middle, which is a mainline railroad tracks. And the mainline railroad tracks vibrate our house, there's sound every day. It's a mainline track. I work with the railway, there's 20 trains a day going by there, and I don't see how that would increase the value of our home having it being so close to the railroad track. So that to me, I think should be taken into account when assessing homes too, because you talked about the different things influencing, like being on the water and stuff like that. Well, we're right next to a railroad track, that cannot be a selling feature. That has to be taken into consideration also. The bus stop is at the end of our street. It's a fairly long street, so it's about a 10-minute walk for any of our kids to go to the bus. We have a young family, so we have to drive them down the end of the road to the bus stop. There's no way they could walk it in the wintertime to get to the bus stop, so that's one of the things we've noticed. When looking at the comparables here, I noticed that the one that was comparable at 71 Bronca Place in the area, that's the lot size there is 7,000. Our lot size is 6,000 roughly, and the difference in price, you know, it's 485 down to 525. There's a big difference in cost there. Like we said, we purchased our house for 514. It wasn't a custom built home. It doesn't have the extras. When we're comparing other homes, you have to compare apples to apples. This is like comparing the one on 260 Profanic is like comparing a Cadillac to a Chevette. You can't compare the two. They're not the same upgrades all inside the homes.
Yeah, and I guess the last point that we want to make is the actual sale price of the home of being $514. I know that the reference date is 2018, but because there is very little comparables, I think it would be fair to include that based on that. We purchased the house, we wrote the offer to purchase, and it was accepted in October 2018, just 7 months past the cutoff date. The purchase price was $514,000. That said, there was in the house, we purchased many things from the folks. We purchased a big screen TV, a projector, and 6 recliners, which we decided to add $8,000 to the property. And as well, the washer, the dryer, the fridge, the stove, the built-in dishwasher was all included in the sale as well, which shouldn't be specific to.
We don't have a bar downstairs or anything downstairs.
We don't even have granite counters in the kitchen. So it's, and looking at the market and what it would bear in this specific area, given the actual area, we like a mixed neighborhood. That's what we like our kids to grow up with. But it needs to be assessed fairly and that in consideration.
If you could buy it, I mean, if you look at the house for 514 and the assessed value at 541, if we could sell it at 541, we'd be flipping homes all the time because my house for that price, and we just bought this house in March, so that'd be.
Well, we moved it in March.
Yeah,
We bought it in March.
Yeah, so we just moved it in March, so that's the biggest interest I've ever seen on an investment, if those values are correct and accurate.
And if we could take all the theater equipment with us as well when we went and everything we purchased. So we think a fair market value, as I noted, would be based on the thing $495,000, which is actually, with the exception of the one on Profanic with all the upgrades that we mentioned, is still the highest in the area. And we,
And that's your presentation?
yes,
That's our
thank you.
presentation.
All right, thank you. Questions of the applicants?
No, I don't have any question, but since I am on this here, we can ask, then turn the mic on, the mic thing on.
Could you not hear?
Well, you know what, fortunately,
Hello?
Hello. That's fine, thank you.
Okay.
Fortunately, they've been able to speak loudly enough as well as the previous appellant, but there are other people going to come up, chances are that I'm not going to hear
Okay,
anything.
okay.
So now that I know it's there,
Okay.
we can talk about that.
So no questions?
No questions.
Mr. DeLego?
No questions.
Ms. Rempel?
I just want to clarify, I didn't see because I was looking at your presentation. Where is the railway line?
Just
Is it
right
here?
there, straight up, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have a couple of questions for you. I know the sale is post-reference, but was it multiple listing?
Our home?
Yeah,
No,
no, private sale?
yes.
Okay. So, did you have it appraised at the time?
No, we did not.
No? Mortgage on the property or?
Yes, we have a
Yeah,
mortgage.
okay. So when you bought it, the offer to purchase, did it include those things that you mentioned about the TV and?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so why wouldn't you do that separately?
We were dealing with private, we never had a real estate agent, so we just said,
Okay.
okay, this is.
Because you're paying sales, you're paying transfer tax on that also.
In hindsight, we probably shouldn't
Okay.
have.
Now that you say it, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
It
that makes
doesn't
sense.
really make sense, but we looked at the house and what they actually asked, what they were asking for the house was 505. And we ended up purchasing it for 514, including the stuff. So that's how we
Okay.
came to it.
Okay, that's what I was gonna, so the asking price was 505 and you paid 505 plus? Okay.
Basically, yeah.
We just did it like that so it was easier. They were also going through a divorce.
So furniture and fixtures are 8. Okay. Summation, if you want. Final word? Okay,
Thank you.
leave it with us and results very soon.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we will deal with Philip Lee Drive, 302.
Do you like to swear in or affirm?
I will swear.
Please state your full name,
Joel Escalante.
and you swear the evidence provided represents the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and nothing but that?
Yes.
Do you have any evidence for this matter?
Yes.
Number 8. It's nice that they're marked.
Okay.
Thank you. So you're okay meter-wise for the time being? You plug the meter?
I'll be good for another 2 hours.
Well,
That's a long presentation.
that's a long presentation, right?
No, I didn't know that I'll be called late.
All right. We'll have the assessor take us through your property, okay?
Yeah.
Wherever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've noticed something here before I get started, and wait, let me get started. 302 Philip Lee Drive, roll number 04-00725-2915. And what did I just notice? I'm going to explain, this is just a reason, not an excuse. The reality is that, yeah, we can choose that to say. The reality is that when we get all of these and another 18 coming up next week and so on, Mr. Chairman, you know that the pressures are so much. It's not just to generate these briefs, but they'll be able to, when possible, to look and investigate every sale, and that means every comparable. Unfortunately, sometimes we look at it and we look at numbers and types and qualities and style, and I didn't know that comparable number 3 and 2 is the same comparable as resold. So we're going to ignore in the 2016.
Which one do you want to ignore?
Ignore comparable number 2.
Number 2?
We cross that one out and we look at comparable number 3. So we have 3 comparables to look at.
They're 2 different ones, aren't they? One is Monastersky Cove and one is Margaret Swan Drive.
Oh, see,
So you're okay?
I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay.
It's good that somebody is able to see more clearly.
That's without
When
my
I, when I,
glasses.
when I took a quick look, it looked the same.
Well, you see what I mean?
Anyways,
I
okay.
know, but see at first, I don't even, I look at whatever, usually,
All right, the floor is yours, sir.
I'm okay, I'm good to go, right? So now we're gonna flow back in number 2, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, a little bit about the subject property. Don't know if did I just mention the roll number and all of that?
Yeah.
Oh, I did, okay. So we move on. It's a 2-story, single family, built in 2017, 2,113 square feet with nothing in the basement that we have records on. 6,071 square feet is the size of the lot. $431,000 is the assessed value. $396,697 was what property was sold for. Now I didn't check to find out whether it's a multiple listing, whether it was private sale, whatever. I didn't know all of that. 4 comparables here. Comparable number 1, 314 Phillips Lee Drive, which apparently is about just a stone throw from that of the subject property. Built in 2016, it's 1,993 square feet. It's 110 square feet smaller than that of the subject. Same size a lot, and it is $442,000 for comparable number 1. Comparable number 2, 26 Manashtriski Cove. 2-story, built in 2016. About the same size of that of the subject property, nothing in the basement. $449,000 for that comparable. And then comparable number 3 on 26 Margaret Swan. Actually, those the names are vastly different. I don't know. I was thinking that they were the
Same
same.
number.
Maybe because I was nervous in trying to look to see when I see a number, I just make sure that they're the same or not the same, as the case may be. Alright, 26 Margaret Swan, 2-story, 2017 built, a little bit larger, 53 square feet larger than that of the subject property. Again, nothing in the basement. Lot size is slightly smaller at $441,000. Comparable number 4, last one, 330 Phillips Lee Drive, built in 2016. It is smaller by 270 square feet possibly, plus or minus. Has the same lot size, it's on the same side of the street at $427,000, which is close to that of the subject property. What I see here, Mr. Chairman, notwithstanding percentage increase, never look at percentage, I only look at how it compares. I see 4 to 1 is highly similar in terms of value, and it certainly, the comparable certainly supports the value of the subject property. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the assessor?
No.
No?
No, sorry.
Mr. Gallego?
No questions.
Ms. Rempel?
I noticed that comparison 1 and comparison 4 are on the same street as the subject property. Would you say those are the most comparable comparisons to the subject property?
Well, that's a good question. Typically, in most cases, I would say, yes, we put some weight on those. But when I look across and I see all the properties built in the same location, same type of home, single family, built around the same time, square footage are slightly different and so on, and the values are so close, I would say that each one of these comparables actually support the value of the subject property.
Thank you.
I have no questions. Floor is yours, sir.
Okay, 302 Philip Lee Drive. I built this house through Broadview development, Broadview Homes in 2016. And because of, I picked the bare base of this model. That's why I purchased it for 396,696. And I am being compared to other poor properties which has many upgrades, I believe. And this can be supported with my pictures, the pictures that I have sent there. The first 26 Ministers upgrade picture, they have the stone cladding in front, which I don't have in my property. The door is an upgrade. The windows is an upgrade to this property from Mastersky. They have a deck, or it has a deck, would I say. I don't have a deck in my house. 26 Marguerite Swan, they have a stone cladding in front. Doors is an upgrade. They have a colored stucco, that this is an upgrade as well. The 314 Philip Lee Drive, they have a stone cladding. They have a colored stucco. This is based on the picture that I provided. The 330 Philip Lee, they have a stone cladding, colored stucco. And the next page of this one, they have the entertainment center fireplace, hardwood or laminate flooring, which I don't have in my house. And the last three pages there is the picture of my house. You can see it's as the regular stucco there, with the colored stucco just on the post. And that comes. This comes in a standard with this model. I have the floor of just a vinyl flooring and a carpet, which is the base also for this model. And look at my living area, the entertainment center. It's a bare, nothing there. It's my TV on it. So I believe that the comparison is not fair. That I've been compared to these houses with too many upgrades. And if you can see from my spreadsheet, while the rest of the houses, the value difference in percentage has decreased, while mine has increased 5.59%, and the rest are decreasing minus 6.46 from the sale. So I believe that the assessor made a mistake assessing the property, and I would ask the board to consider the proper assessment on my property. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant?
No question, Mr. Chairman. Our
Okay.
presentation is okay.
Mr. DeLego?
Yes, so what number do you think you'd like to see?
Well, if I purchase it below 400 and there was a 3% increase in, would I say, appreciation of property, which I believe it is, but the 431 assessed value for April 2018 is really way too high for a 396 under 400,000 property. I cannot say, but this is really, I would say, if these other four properties assessed value decreased considerably, why my property increased that much? I'm going a different direction, projecting too high, and this other properties going down. So, to be fair, I should be getting the same.
So what is the number that you'd like to see?
I am not a professional realtor, but I would say that my property could not be sold for 431,000. I would be happy if the city will pay me 431 now, and then maybe for 400.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Brimple?
Yes, just a couple of things. Do you live at the property?
I live in the property.
Okay, because I noticed that you are Joel Escalante, right?
Yes.
It says that You're on 904 Fleming Avenue?
Yes, that's my property also,
Oh.
which I'm letting my relative live there for
Okay,
now.
so,
I
but you
have
do
two-
live at the subject
Yes, but
property.
I live on the street also.
Okay, the only other thing I'm wondering about is, this picture of your, living room here. Is that a fireplace or is that an?
No, that is just I bought that from Canadian.
Oh, it's like an entertainment center.
just a console maybe, but then there's an insert of.
Okay. I was
It's
just
not
wondering,
really a
because it kinda
fireplace.
looks like logs lying in the bottom. All
It
right.
is just a wooden movable thing that I put my TV on top of it. I moved it from my old house.
Thank you very much.
I just have a couple questions. You bought this house from Boardroom,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
so when you, and they built it for you?
They built it for me.
They built it for you?
Yes, I bought it like a regular.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
picked the lot and I picked the model.
Yeah, so you can go à la carte, I guess,
Yes.
for various improvements, etc.?
Yes, but it
Okay.
comes with a standard.
Yeah,
So
it's a
I really-
standard,
Yeah.
okay. So
I have
did you add anything, did you add anything
to the standard.
to their base price or anything like that? Or
Yes, I have few.
Roughly.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, they gave me a 4,600 of for the design center, which is like part of the promotion thing.
okay.
They gave me this free loan on all sides when I signed up on that month,
Okay.
and I upgraded to a bigger, two feet wider garage. So that's what I did, and I don't have the exact amount of the upgrade, but
They give you any landscaping?
that's included in my,
Included?
yeah, like a promotion during
Yep.
the time when I signed in February of 2016. They said, okay, we'll give those
Mhm.
who sign or purchase lot, will get a,
They give you a fence?
no,
No. Okay.
I have one at the back because I'm backing to the street. So it comes with a fence, just the back,
Okay, that's good. Summation?
No, I'm good.
No? Anything further?
that's all.
Leave it with us, and
Thank you, Your Honor.
we'll give you results very shortly. We'll go on to 1152 The Groff Place. We'll have you sworn in or affirmed, either one.
Please state your full name.
Peter Dirksen.
You swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, it is.
Do you have any evidence on the panel?
Yes, it is. Five.
Yep. All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Ramsawat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to have one piece of information for this docket, Mr. Chairman. not able to find it, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
All right, now, 1152 DeGraff Place, with the roll number 04 000 65500. It's a one-story single-family home that was built in 1960. It's 1,144 square feet with a full basement and some development in the basement. 6,040 square feet is the size of the lot, and 283,000 is the assessed value of the subject property. The four compounds that I have here, they are all single-family home, one-story home. Compound number 1 on Sharon Bay, 538 Sharon Bay. 1959 built, about the same size of home with a full basement and some development in the basement. $281,000, $281,800 is the market value on that property. Comparable number 2, 563 Edison Avenue, one-story home built in 1960, about the same size of that, virtually the same as that of the subject property. Again, it's got some finishing in the basement and virtually the same lot size. $286,600 is comparable number 2. And then comparable number 3, 569 Cedar Crest, single family, one story, built in 1960. 1,240 square feet, so this one is 104 square feet larger with some development in the full basement. Lot size is the same, $281,000. And then lastly, comparable number 4, 188 Macaulay Crescent. One story, single family, built in 1961, smaller by 100, almost 100 square feet, it's something square feet smaller than the subject property. 5,397 square feet is the size of the lot, $290,000 is for this one here. We have the subject property at $288,000, and what are we comparing it overall? Same characteristic area in Rossmere. Each of the property, one story, each of them single family, they are all built between 1959 and 1961, the subject property is 1960. Each of these properties are almost, well actually the first two are about the same size. The third one is slightly larger, the fourth one is slightly smaller. Each of them have some finish in the basement with comparable size of the lot. Each of these properties, they range as closely as between $281,000 to $290,000. The subject property appears to be very fair. Now, what I was looking for, Mr. Chairman, is to find out the designation of the appraiser. I don't see one. I assume that.
Well, we're just dealing with your information.
Well, I know,
For the
but
time
also, notwithstanding all of this, okay. So when an appraiser is not here, I can't ask a question from that. Thank you.
Questions of the assessor?
No, sir.
No. Mr. DeLego?
No.
Ms. Rempel?
No.
I don't think I have any either. So, sir, the floor is yours. So you can take us or tell us what you think the property is worth. And I can tell you that our V-Day is April the 1st of 2018.
Oh, for the value?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So the floor is yours.
And you're with reference to the appraisal, date of the appraisal?
I'm
That's
looking
the-
at that.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
So, I'm not gonna pretend to be an expert. What I've done is, when I saw the assessment, I went and got an appraiser and said, appraise the property. To answer the gentleman's question, she is Appraisal Institute of Canada, member in good standing, Canadian residential appraiser. Her appraisal states Appraisal Institute of Canada in the upper right corner, so by me saying that I'm not a professional, what I mean by that is, I think everybody has bias. I believe, without being specific, I believe a city assessor has a bias, maybe that the more value they put on the property, the more taxes they make. I, of course, would be biased towards the less money the house is appraised for, I pay less.
Yeah.
So how I found this appraiser was I went to the Appraisal Institute of Canada website. I called the first three names, unfortunate for the people who have listings later, and I took the three values, and the one who was the cheapest actually didn't sound quite as professional. The other guy was quite expensive, so I picked this lady and I asked her to come and appraise the property. She came and appraised the property with skipping kind of the end of with the meat and potatoes of it. She appraised the value at 260. I think there's some reasons for that, because that flies in the face of the information you've already been given. Besides what she wrote, which is I was very surprised. I mean, I paid $300 for this report, but it's very, very detailed and very astute, and she is a professional, and she is completely independent. She's not biased except for her reputation to make sure she does a good job. So why I think that their appraisal came through, just in my opinion, is you'll take a look at some of the houses that the city has sent, just with the few facts that you get, which I don't think you get a picture of a house by looking at the document that I was presented by the city. But you will see that it says central air on two of the houses, yes, yes. So, and this doesn't go any further past that. If you start to look at this house, my father built that house in 1960, and my mother, I'm not, and I should say that, I remember you said on the phone, sir, that I should bring the probate order, because my mother's passed away. So I am representing her as the executor of the state. So I have that document, because you said you didn't have access to it. However, to schedule this hearing, I had to show that to the panel.
Yes.
And they accepted me as
Yeah.
being likely to speak.
So that's perfectly fine.
Good. So that speaks to the ages of the house. My mom lived in that house from when it was built in 1960 and never upgraded a thing. So it has no AC, it has a 25-year-old furnace, it has a 20-year-old hot water tank, it has no dishwasher. There's water encroachment in 2 rooms. The basement windows are rotted out to the point where I put styrofoam into the house in the fall to give it some extra wind protection to stop the wind from coming into the basement. The agent that I asked to give me and now back to who has bias, the agent, they can tend to be biased towards a higher value because then you let them sell the house. The agent I thought was fairly professional that I contacted, and he's at the very, very end. His name, the last 2 sheets after the appraisal have 2 things that he included information that she did as well, the same houses actually to compare, but he also added these 2 other documents at the very back of your package. And that gentleman, Mr. Mark Rondo, he told me that house, he would get me about $265 for that house. So I go with the $260 that the appraiser said, I go with the $265 that the real estate agent said, and he seemed, I had no reason to find him, and I don't know him either. I actually found him on a website where I said, what's the value of your house? And he sent me an email back, and I did 3 of them, and he's the only one that replied, so I called him. So I have no friendship with any of these people, I have no previous knowledge with any of these people. The basement states finished in all of these files, but if you take a look at the picture of the, oh, and by the way, ma'am, the fireplace is also fake in the living room. So, in that basement finished, and you can see by the report of the appraiser, she states the room, if I read that part of it, it's on her, you guys have, sorry that the
Mr.
photocopy.
Dirksen, I'm just going to interrupt for 1
Sorry.
second. When you hired the appraiser, what was the purpose of the appraisal?
To find the fair market value of the house.
As at what date?
And
As at what date?
yes, well, she took the date that she was
Okay,
there.
yeah,
Now,
okay.
to that,
But what we're after a V-Day or a valuation
Right.
as at the reference, and that is April the 1st, 2018,
correct, sir.
okay?
And-
So we're, this is beyond that.
Yeah, but basically a year later.
Yeah, but basically, when you hired the appraiser, you should have stated to the individual what the purpose was. And the purpose was to go before the Board of Revision and have a V-Day of April the 1st.
Yes.
So this, is beyond, so, we'll accept it, but it's,
So my position for that would be,
Yeah.
and like I said, I'm not a professional here, or I wouldn't have made that mistake. However.
you should have stated,
I need it as of
She
this
should
day.
have asked, what was the purpose? And the purpose was, give me a V-Day of April the 1st,
To see even the
2018.
V-Day terminology, I wouldn't have
Well,
known, right? But
valuation.
Right, I
Valuation.
would have, that is my mistake, it's not hers.
Well,
I just said, can you tell me what this house is worth?
Yeah, currently.
Yes,
Currently,
and
okay?
to that,
So it helps you currently, but
Right.
it doesn't help the panel.
to that point though, does it not help the panel in the fact that
Well, all the sales, if you've been listening, are beyond the reference point. So you can't, you have to go back to the reference point and earlier.
Right,
So-
but can we not use the fact that the city
Well-
files that are from 216 and 217,
Yes,
when
that's
they
fine.
changed them to 2018, they
No,
all
no,
went
no,
up
no,
thousands of dollars.
No. There's a sale price before and there's a time adjustment,
Right,
okay? So, they're
So-
all in order.
but for example, the comparison number 2, if it says 279.9,
Yeah.
and that was in 2016, and this evaluation needs to be in 2018.
That's right, but
So-
that was prior to,
Right.
prior to, so it counts, it's.
Right, but
you know.
the city is
But
saying.
yours is beyond the reference,
Yes, sir.
okay.
But the one that was before, the value, my point is
Okay,
that it went up.
you're
And
talking about
the-
the assessment?
Yes.
Okay, but,
No, not the assessment, sorry. The market value that they found in 2016 for the house on 563 Edison was 279. When they time adjusted to 2018,
yes,
it goes up basically $7,000.
but that's just a time adjustment.
So I would suggest to you, this is what my submission would be to the panel, that my assessment, the houses are going up in that area, they're not going down. So if my assessment is 260 in 2019 May, well then
It should be
surely
lower.
in 2018,
Good.
it would be lower.
Yeah.
It would be
Yeah.
even less, so.
But it would be nice to state that and even to prove those figures by sales in and around the April the 1st, 2018. Okay.
They did not adjust the 2018 and 2018, example 1 and 3 were not adjusted, but both 2 and 4 went up. And I think it's fairly reasonable if we're all, and I'm not a professional at this, however, just being a citizen of Winnipeg, I'm well aware that the prices have gone.
Okay, we could talk about this probably all day, so.
Okay. Well, nonetheless, it's what I have, and,
Okay.
and I
So-
don't imagine that the house would have sold for more in 2018 and less in 2019.
Okay,
Um,
so you're sticking to the 260?
Yes, sir. Well,
Yeah.
obviously, I can just tell by what you're saying, you don't agree, but I would actually suggest
No, I'm
that.
not saying that. I look at the evidence, there's 2 other panel members, there's also an assessor here.
Right.
So.
But I would suggest to you it should be lower, because the house, if it's gone up, everybody who spoke today so far,
Yeah.
the values have gone up every year. So therefore, the only thing that would have happened if I had said, what is this house worth? Last year, sorry ma'am, I need to get the date of a year ago in May, the value would be lower. That's all I would submit in regard to that. And otherwise, I apologize for not.
No,
But nonetheless.
you don't have to apologize. I'm just saying that if the appraiser was doing a good job for you, she would have asked the purpose. And probably, maybe you stated, I wanted to know the current market value. I don't know.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so they interpret it as being current, okay?
Yes.
Whereas we're looking for sales prior to or around the reference year.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Back to the, where the basement
Okay.
is stated is finished. On the page that says, it's your first page and it's your third page. Sorry that you've got the back sides printed, I don't. It says the laundry area is otherwise unfinished. As is the common, the utility area also doubles as an unfinished storage room. So from those pictures as well, where you can see that shower may count for the assessor, and I'm not blaming the assessor that there's a failure on your behalf. There's just specifics to certain houses that when somebody comes to buy that house, they look at it and they say, when my mom died, she was a few months from age 9. So she lived in that house for the vast majority of life and didn't change anything. So you're not going to get, and that's what the panel is supposed to determine, is what is, if somebody came there with reasonable, fair expectations, no prejudices, what would they pay for that house? That house and many of the others here, pardon me, my house excluded, or this house excluded, they have been updated because my mom lived a very long life. These houses have already been bought by people, and that's what people in this neighborhood are doing. They're buying these houses from these centurions that are just about still living in their houses. They fix them up and they sell them for a lot more money. So this house has not been fixed up. It would not sell for anywhere near that amount of money, and that's what we're supposed to be evaluating it on, 2018 evaluation. The adjuster said very little upgrading and improvements since the time of construction and is to be considered dated. The kitchen cabinets, countertops, bathroom fixtures, and finishes appear to be original to the dwelling and considered to be dated. That's my reason why this house cannot be compared to many of the other houses. And if you do, and this is where I think there is maybe a little bit of bias, is that the properties that the assessor has provided are all on the high side. Well, the agent, who I didn't print any of this off myself, he provided a house at 21 Macaulay Place, which sold for $259,900. And Macaulay Place is also the comparison number 4 for the city.
Mhm.
They picked an address on Macaulay as well.
Yep.
That house that sold for $259,000, now this is where you get into the details of the house, had air conditioning, high efficient furnace. My mom's house has a 25-year-old furnace and no air conditioning. The next house is 438 Stalker Bay, and that house was actively listed by Mark Rondo at $279,900, which is $3,000 or $4,000 less than the assessed value on this house, and it sold for $272,000. That house is exactly comparable in square footage, 1134, and it also has air conditioning. So it's not just the houses that haven't been upgraded, it's also the houses that have the upgrades and are still selling for $272,000, which have been refinished. So I'm not pretending that certain people are going to come in here and pick all the high ones, and I'm going to come in here and pick all the low ones. What I'm telling you is I didn't pick any. These are the ones that real estate agents gave me. This is what the assessor did. So my submission is that's the most impartial way to try to decide the fair value. A person with training. I was stunned by the report, the incredible detail that she put into it. And she says if that house was sold in 2019, and I understand it's not 2019 valuation, if it was sold in 2019 May, you'd get $260,000.
Okay. And that's your presentation?
I think so. If you don't, the agent found an issue in part of the bedroom, and he said that looks like asbestos tile to him as well. So the appraiser didn't notice that, but this Mark Rondo, he did. So to me, again, there's other issues that you have to deal with. When a person comes into a house and looks at it, they're going to look at the bigger picture, and they're going to, if somebody notices that, I'm sure the price will suffer even further. I would like to say that what I learned from reading her report, on the page where it actually shows her 3 comparison properties, none of them are the same as the city's. There's 110 DeGraff Bay, which is the same street, so you can't get closer. It's the same street, just on the other side of Edison. It is a bay, which is a little bit more quiet. It's got a park, and I was reading it, and if it's worth 269.5, why did the appraiser give this house a 260 evaluation? And then I started to look, well, she says it's by a park, so that it gets more for that. It gets something taken off because it only has this size of something. So what she's done with those properties at 110 DeGraff, 438 Stalker, and 72 Briar, the comparable 1, 2, and 3 by the appraiser, she has gone through and actually looked at those specific houses, not just this tiny sheet that the only thing it really tells you is the numbers. Doesn't tell you the feeling of the house. She goes in and takes a look at what a customer is going to look at and says, oh, okay, this house has to go down, this has to go up, this has to be compared to 1152 DeGraff Place in this fashion. And then when she looks, she goes, this is the value of the house. And with all of that considered, including that she says all 3 sales were dated, the comparison properties, 1, 2, and 3, all 3 sales were dated. And at the bottom of her paragraph, the last sentence, she says, all had newer PVC windows. Comparable number 3 also featured hardwood floors. There's no hardwood floors in this house. The windows are the original ones that you pull out and you stick in. And then if you don't do it well, as you reach forward, they bang you in the back of the head. You put in the wooden storm windows inside, and they're single pane. So she has obviously looked and said, yes, 269, 274, 258. However, this house at 1152, considering the complete walkthrough that she's done, is worth 260. So I would submit that it's worth 260. In 2019, it's worth less. But you've asked every panel member that's spoken, I'm sorry, you've asked every applicant that's spoken to you, what would you think it's worth? So I would be at least of the position that in 2018, it's not worth more than 260. So just because I don't have the experience to back extrapolate it, I would say the value that would be fair in 2018 is 260. But I would submit that if I had the skills to take a look at the inflation rate and the change in that neighborhood, which has gone up, that's a fact, then it should be less than 260.
Thank you, Mr. Dirksen.
Thank you.
Questions of the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This time I do. Now, Mr. Chairman, you may not agree that I shouldn't be making a reference or critiquing this, but I tell you that I do. Actually, once I can't ask questions about the appraisal report, I can certainly criticize it because it appears here in front of me. So here's something I ask you to look at. I encourage you to look at the grid so that you can point out just a couple of things. Now, first of all, I find it rather strange that an appraiser is going to have their name there and not have a designation. And that is not what the appraisal institute would let us, they wouldn't be easy on us if we don't do that. Now, but then I encourage you to look and see, well, of course, you already rightly talked about the post-reference date, so I'm not going to go there. But I do want to point out a couple of things where I see definite flaws. I want to point out to you the bathroom. When you look at the bathroom there, you would see, first of all, the subject property shows it has 2 bathrooms. The comparable number 1 has 1 bathroom, and he made an adjustment of $1,000 for the bathroom. But look at what's more glaring, Mr. Chairman. Look at comparable number 2 and 3. It shows that they have 2 bathrooms each, and yet, Mr. Chairman, he deducted $3,000 for each of those, he or she. This gentleman, was there a gentleman? The man, the person, the appraisal report, male or female?
There was a female.
Female?
Female, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yet she put $3,000. This is clearly misleading, and it's a definite flaw. The other thing that I've noticed here, Mr. Chairman, I've noticed that he made an adjustment for as low as for slightly oversized garage of $2,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to restrict it to questions and answers, not summaries.
This is not summary, Mr. Chairman. This is
Well,
something
you're questioning the appraisal report that he, the appraiser is not here, the applicant is
You're
here.
not answering the question, Mr. Chairman. I have a right to critique the appraisal report, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
I'm qualified to do that.
you know something, the value was stated, and I would appreciate if you would just stick to the value.
Well, yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm suggesting to you where this appraisal report here is flawed. On the appraisal report is flawed, I have an obligation, Mr. Chairman,
Well, that's
to
your
point
opinion.
that out to you.
That's your opinion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm seeing it very, very clear. And you can always, I encourage you if you want to, take this to an appraisal report for them to take it further. And you'll find that what I'm saying here, this is not something that is hidden, this is something you can see clearly.
I would like to press
That
on.
and
We
then-
have other people sitting here.
All right, as
and,
long as you
you
take
know,
into consideration, Mr. Chairman, that would be all. Thank you.
Mr.
I'm done.
Gallego?
In your whole presentation, when did you buy this house and what did you pay for it?
I haven't purchased it, it's still owned by my mother.
Oh, I see, so there was
Yes,
no.
sir. No, it had, the estate's not final.
Yeah.
Ms. Rempel?
Yes, I'm wondering, do you live in the house?
No,
Okay.
no,
Is it your intention to sell the house?
yes.
Can you tell me more about this water in the basement,
In
in the two rooms?
Yeah, in the furnace room, there's no picture showing that, but in the furnace room, the water comes down from the driveway side of the house and just runs onto the floor. And in 1966 or so, my father got frustrated with it and he cut a groove into the pavement and it just takes the water and runs it into the drain. And there's nothing there. It's not, that wall's not insulated, it's open. So that's why when, and I have no hard feelings against anybody. I think he's doing his job as best he can. But when you look at a house, when it says finished basement, yes, beside this name, it says yes. It's not. There's walls in there that are not insulated, and that's why that water encroachment in that room's not that big of a deal. In the bedroom where the appraiser put a photo, every year when the snow melts on the other neighbor's driveway, when the snow melts or when it rains hard with a driving wind from the northeast, the water comes into the basement on that carpeted floor, and then we put a heater on the floor and we blow it away. And the appraiser told me that that's something that you have to tell a buyer when they buy. It's incumbent upon you. It's not the buyer beware anymore. It's you're incumbent to tell somebody. So when I tell somebody that, house is not going to sell, in my opinion, for all these reasons, nowhere near what the city is suggesting.
And has there been any confirmation that this is in fact asbestos tile?
No, ma'am.
No.
No, and the agent came after the appraiser.
Okay.
So I didn't get to say to her, what do you think of that? Is that in fact confirmed? But when you look at it, it's 1960 flooring. And so the time frame is right. And when you look at it, when he pointed it out, I went, really? And I went, oh, I'm glad my mom didn't know that because she wouldn't have liked it.
Yeah.
So no is the answer, but when I look at it, it probably is. It's got that very black tile on the bottom.
Mr. Chair, may I redirect a question to the
Sure.
assessor? Because I've just noticed something. Yes, I'm wondering about comparison number 3, which sold in March 2018 for $281,500. And is it because it's sold in March, there is no time adjusted sale price?
Yeah, we can see.
Because the time adjusted price per square foot is the same.
If you look at it as being sold in a week or 2 or 3 and so on, it's so insignificant that when you look at the values, you couldn't definitively say a property is going to sell for, let's say, $281,500.03. No, you have a range, and therefore there is a little bit of what should I say? When you look at it's within the range and within that percentage of error and that kind of thing, there will be no need to make an adjustment for a few days or a few weeks.
So if I'm correct, then that's the most recent sale.
That is the most recent sale.
And the sale price per square foot is $225.56. And it seems to me, unless I've got something wrong, that dwelling is almost identical to the subject dwelling, aside from
Except for the size, if I noticed.
Yes, it's a little larger even than the subject property
Right.
in terms of size, and it has air conditioning, and it has detached single garage as opposed to a detached multiple garage.
Right, the subject has a detached multiple.
Right. Okay, thank you, those are all my questions.
Summation if you want.
Mr. Chairperson,
Let me see.
would I be allowed to ask him, he asked me some questions and I want, or he made some statements and I never got to ask him a question about it?
All
What
right,
can I
go
do,
ahead.
the summation,
Yeah, summation.
whatever you like.
Summation.
Okay.
Very simple, Mr. Chairman. The evidence about the property, they are also highly similar at $281,000. I asked that you confirm this value. One of those things was at it here. I need also to know or get a copy of the authorization that you have, sir. You said you're going to get that for us.
As I said in the beginning, sir, I already gave it to the city. They wouldn't even let me file this until I gave it to them. You didn't have
We
it, but I
should-
did bring it to you.
We will have a copy here.
Yes, sir.
For
But I do
secretary
have a
is-
copy
we'll
of the
look it up.
probate right
So-
here if you need it.
So I think you wouldn't have been sitting there
No.
if you weren't authorized.
Yes, sir, yeah.
Okay. Summation?
Yeah, actually, Mr. Chairman, I do apologize for not doing this summation afterwards. I thought when I had I had a chance. I mentioned about the appraisal report that there are flaws, but I leave the rest up to you. I'm done. I don't
Okay.
have any other question.
Mr. Dirksen, final word?
Thank you, sir. The term that the assessor used was designation, and he mentioned that twice, but I did say that on the front page it says by Lindsay Henley, Canadian Residential Appraiser, Appraisal Institute member in good standing. In the very top corner of her forehead, it says Appraisal Institute of Canada. So unless I'm misunderstanding the terms, twice he asked, what is her designation? It doesn't say. If that's not referring to that, then maybe I can help by explaining to me what that means. Because her designation is a valid member of the Canadian Institute of Appraisal in good standing. Is that what you
They
meant by that?
normally put their
But it's
CRA.
CRA or ACI, right?
Yeah.
In this case, it's,
Yeah.
or is it a member?
Yeah.
So I really don't know.
Okay,
If
that's
it's a
what you
member, is
Yeah.
it co-signed? I
Yeah.
have no idea what is
Yeah.
going on.
Okay, she had, on the website, she had both. There was those little insignias.
CRA?
Yeah, and,
Okay.
well, the higher level one, when I Googled that, I remember going, what does that mean? And I Googled it,
Yeah.
and she had the one that, she either had both or she had the
It's
higher.
a AACI.
Well, it could be a CRA with an appraisal thing, that doesn't necessarily mean to have both. We don't
Yeah.
put both any longer. You have a CRA, on the ACI, you drop the CRA and you have the ACI
Yeah.
only.
Okay,
Okay.
so at least that understands that. And when the assessor was asking the questions or making the statement about comparison number 2 wasn't fair because the 2 full finished basements, she deducted 3,000 and that wasn't appropriate. I would suggest look at the picture of that bathroom in my mom's house and take a look at that rusted, improperly plumbed shower where my dad ground a hole in the concrete and the drain runs into the sewer. So when she looks at that person's bathroom, and she looks at that bathroom, and when you sit on that toilet, you're also in the spare fridge room, you're also in the laundry room, and you're also in the dryer room. And there's no insulation on that wall either. So when she removes $3,000, it's because in Francis Dirksen's house, it says 2 bathroom, yes. Well, no, it's not comparable to the bathroom that's in another house that you can close the door and sit on. So I don't feel that was inappropriate from her to deduct that 3,000 at all, because I suspect strongly that she knows what she's doing and she's comparing it to an appropriate property. And I also thank the I think it's Rempel,
Yes.
member, because I had actually written here but forgot to mention of the notes I made while I was waiting. It said if you compare the last, and it's funny because I haven't written this down, just reading it now. If you compare the 225.56 per square foot times 1144, you get 258.040. So if you've asked everybody else, what would be the value you're asking for? Well, then you know what? I'll use the assessor's comparison number 3, which is the latest sale in 2018 at 225.56 per square foot, and I'll multiply it by my mother's square foot, and I'll get 258, which is probably $2,000 difference in the last year since the interest. So that would be the number I would say, $258.40. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your appearance this morning, and results very soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Al?
We'll go on, we'll try to wrap everything up, okay? So we're gonna go with Edison Avenue. 594. Are you guys okay for meter wise and?
Please state your full name.
Janice Fairley.
And you swear to evidence about this is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth and nothing but it?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have any evidence for the time?
So I am.
Good morning. Whenever you're ready, you can take us through the property.
What's the address, Mr. Chairman? Ma'am, will you speak in this meeting, please? What's the address, Mr. Chairman?
594 Edison,
594. Edison.
number 12.
594 Edison, thank you. Okay, in respect to the subject property at 594 Edison Avenue with roll number 04000760-500. It's a one-story single-family home built in 1960. It's 1,047 square feet with some finishing in the basement. It's 4,997 square feet of lot size. And we have an assessed value of $265,000. There are 4 comparable properties to support the value of the subject property. Comparable number 1 is on 657 McLeod Avenue, one-story single-family home built around the same time, 1,057 square feet, which is about the same size. Full basement with some development in the basement and a comparable lot size. This property that's $276,700. Comparable number 2 is on 685 Bardal Bay. It's a single family, one story, built in the same year of the subject property. It's about the same size of the subject property with a full basement. It also has some development in the basement, and it is $258,000. The lot size is the same. Then there's comparable number 3, 593 Ian Place. It's a one-story single-family home built in the same year. It's slightly smaller, 1,014 square feet. It's got a full basement with some development in the basement, and the lot size that is the same is $275,700. And lastly, comparable number 4, which is 749 McLeod Avenue. It's a one-story single family, built in 1960, around the same size, full basement, some development in the basement, and the lot size is highly similar as well, $276,000. All these comparables, they range between $258,000 for the lowest one to $276,000 for the highest one, and the comparable, the subject property is sitting somewhere about the middle, and is being supported by the 4 comparable properties, and that's my presentation, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions of the assessor?
No.
No? Mr. DeLego?
No.
Ms. Rempel?
No.
Okay. Your presentation.
My garage is not stucco, it's chipboard and the mice are eating through it. Also, although the street was repaired last year, in September and October, I had sewer in my basement 3 times. And that's, the living room window is the original one. I have a very nice apple tree, that's it.
So what do you think the value should be for your property?
257?
And how did you arrive at that figure?
I think that was the assessed value before my basement was finished. I had someone come into my home, an assessor, and at that time it had just been through a flood. inside. And he said when I put on the baseboards, then, or in 2 years, he would give me to put on the baseboards, and then it would go up in value when he would consider the basement finished.
How much flood damage did you have? And
This past year,
yeah,
well, in the bathroom, and the water ran through one bedroom and into the,
insurance claim?
no, I
No?
did not, I don't think it's insured for sewer,
Okay.
no.
So did you have to take work permits out or anything like that?
Pardon?
Did you have to get estimates in regards to repairing the basement or?
No, I did not bother, yeah,
Okay.
we're old, we just want to move on someday,
And that's your presentation?
yeah.
Questions of the applicant?
Just a moment, Mr. Chairman, I just want to look here, she did mention that we had an inspection on, figure out something here, so bear with me please. You did mention that that an assessor was there and that all you needed was just the baseboard.
That's what he said.
So I'm trying to figure out here, would it be reasonable to suggest that just because of the baseboard, your basement is not finished? Or was there other reasons?
There was probably other reasons. It's not insulated at all. We did have the house dug around, like the walls outside the house waterproofed to stop the water from coming in. The floor is not finished in the laundry room. The tiles are breaking off. I do have asbestos tiles in upstairs, although they're covered with this white black flooring.
And do you have access to a camera to take pictures?
I have a camera, but
You didn't think that it was necessary?
no, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay, just one, just ask.
I can
Okay.
come back if you want me to.
That's all the question I have, Mr. Chairman.
I thank you. Mr. DeLego?
No questions.
Ms. Ripple?
Yes, I wonder, could you tell me, you said you had the sewer back up a couple of times?
Yeah, 3 times.
3 times. When might that, the most recent time, have been?
October last year.
October?
These 3 times, like, they finished the street, and then all of a sudden my sewer stopped working. So someone said, don't put toilet paper in the toilet anymore, and we have stopped doing that. But because, I don't, yeah.
So October 2018 was the most recent time?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have that cleaned up? I know you said you didn't have insurance.
Right.
Yeah,
I did it myself. I washed everything with bleach,
okay.
yeah.
And have you had any confirmation that these tiles that you indicate are asbestos are in fact asbestos?
We had the kitchen remodeled maybe in, let me think, 2009 or 2008, and the man said it's asbestos. Since then, the click-clack flooring does not go into the closets, and I can tell there's one room that has hardwood flooring in the closet. I don't know what's underneath the click-clack.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Summation?
No.
Final word?
No?
All right, leave it with us, and
Thank you so
we'll
much.
give you results very soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Victoria Avenue East, number 807. Okay, come on forward. Oh, I'm sorry, wait a second.
You before me?
Yeah, I just, on Esser's number 75, I look at my sheet and say, oh, wait a second. Sorry.
You state your full name
David Isaiah?
and you have to identify the present the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Number 13, Esser's 75. 25 Esters. Yeah. Sorry about that.
No worries, man.
So thank you for your patience. Mr. Ramsbach,
Thank you, Mr.
whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. Now almost. All right, Mr. Chairman, subject property 75 Easter Avenue with a roll number 04000921 000. Bi-level, built in 1973, 1,088 square feet, with 5,000 square feet of lot size. The assessed value, $213,000. We have 4 comparables. Each of these comparables are bi-levels, although they are in areas that we consider comparable. Slightly different area in terms of just the boundaries actually. Now each of these comparables are bi-level, single family. So comparable number 1 on 15 Green Layer Cove, built in 1974, which is about the same size as subject property, slightly larger. It is 1,120 square feet, so that would make it 42 square feet larger than that of the subject property. It's got a full basement and development in the basement as well. 800 square feet is the lot size and $325,000 is the assessed value on that one. More like market value actually. Comparable number 2, 155 Morning Mead Walk, built in 1973, 1,120 square feet, lot size 5,548 square feet. This one is $447,000 as market value. Comparable number 3 then, 61 Appleton Street, built in 1968, 1,226 square feet, which is slightly larger. Actually, more than 100 square feet larger. 630 square feet is the size of the lot. 327,000 is the value on comparable number 3. And then lastly, comparable number 4, 319 Gilmore Avenue, built in 1973, 1,120 square feet, which is about 42 square feet larger than that of the subject property. Got partly finished basement or certainly development in the basement. 5,499 square feet is the size of the lot. $320,000 is the value in that. Each of these properties, they range, they are all bi-level single-family home. And as for value, they range between $320,000, this is the last one, to $347,000. The subject property is actually lower than all the other comparables. And that's my presentation, thank you.
I thank you, sir. Questions of the assessor?
Sure, I was just running some numbers while you were doing the presentation. it- Again, much like everybody else has stated, I'm not a professional.
That's okay. You don't have to be professional, I mean,
No, fair enough.
you just speak your mind here.
Right. So I guess what I'll first start off by saying is what the city initially assessed my property at was $332,000.
Okay, well, wait a second. Just questions in regards to.
Sure, okay.
His presentation,
Fair
okay?
enough.
Then we'll get into yours.
Okay, so just in respect to your comparisons, the only one I can really look at, is the 411 Kildonan Drive. Just doing some numbers, we're talking about similar square footage, yes. That house is 12.5% larger than mine.
Which one are you talking about? Because
411 Kildonan Drive.
We don't have
No,
that.
we don't have that, okay?
I know he's
That's
referring
the-
to-
that's
are
the
you referring to
neighborhood area.
61? Are you referring
Look
to
above
60
that.
61 Apple?
61,
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, okay.
Would you speak in the microphone, please?
Yeah.
Put it a little closer, thank you.
Looking at.
Yeah, you're looking at the area.
61
number.
Appleton.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
comparison number I'm looking at is number 3, which is, you're right, 61 Appleton. Just worth noting, that house is 12.6% larger than mine. The yard is 12.5% larger than mine. Not knowing the numbers, you've got about a 2% difference in our prices, and these are the only numbers that jump out at me.
Okay, so that's your question, why?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Now, at some point in time, I'm going to refer you to the appraisal report where you look at there's always going to be adjustments and differences. So that said, you're going to use that as an example, but coming back to your question here, when you look at the difference in value, I did point that out. I did point out that it's larger. I also mentioned the size of the lot. Now, you saw the size of the lot being, as you say, 12% or whatever. You might want to recognize comparable number 1 as having the largest square foot, but I didn't talk about that being larger. As far as I'm concerned, looking at it based on my experience and knowledge, from an appraisal point, I would not make an adjustment for those lot sizes. You see, once a house is being built on the property, you can't do anything else with that lot. Typically, that's how you have to look at it. Nothing, you can't sell a part of it, you can't value 1,000 square or 100 square feet and put an additional value in it. The reality is that some properties having a larger lot can actually sell for more money, for less money from time to time. So we do what we call a reconciliation process. We recognize the differences, as you will notice in the appraisal report too. You recognize the differences and you start realizing which one might be superior and inferior, and then you start looking at the property that is you want to put your most weight on at some point. And when you see that one, that's the one you start deciding on value. So yes, I recognize that it's slightly larger. I'm not going much in the percentage, and you can think that there are going to be a little bit differences. We don't do that here for this purpose. We don't have a dollar figure for it, but we recognize that and we see the overall value. And your property being lower, that is taken into consideration. Any other questions?
No, like I said, it was just a question of me pointing out
Yeah, I understand.
higher percentages and lower
Yeah,
percentages.
any operator ask?
Mr. DeLego?
Yes, so what number are you asking for?
We're just into
Oh.
presentation.
That's-
That's okay.
No, I have no question on the assessment.
Ms. Reppel?
I have no questions, thank you.
I have none either, so the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, so I purchased this house back in 2014. Originally, the city had assessed it at 314,000. This is several years ago. which is just the first page of what I've submitted to you. I realize this is an old number, but it's kind of what I'm building my case around. The second package that I've given you is from my bank. Basically, they had somebody assess the house for my mortgage. They assessed it at $265,000, in which they said was the fair market value in 2014. That's around 40, that is exactly 49,000 less than what the city had evaluated it at. I presented this information back in, I guess it was 2014 or whenever I met with the assessor. They agreed and they told me that that date was too new, so I paid the taxes for the other value. And then when the next reassessment came around, they lowered it to the market value per what I paid and what the bank agreed the house is valued at. The following year, I met with the city assessor again, where my house was reclassified in 2014 to 265. And the assessment for the market value of 2016 was bumped up to $326,000, which is now a $61,000 increase over the span of 2 years. What I'm looking at next is a comparison of properties all around my block, which is basically 20 or 30 odd houses that I've compared to. And that's the Excel spreadsheets after the mortgage analysis. Sorry, I'll just let everybody catch up on the paperwork.
Oh, you're at this one here?
Yes.
Okay, this one here.
So basically, in that, on the left-hand column is the addresses. The second from the left-hand column was the market value assessed as of April 2014. The third column is the market value as of April 2016, where we had that $326,000 for my house. So what I presented to the city at that time was this chart here, and asked them, the average increase on my lot seems to be 3%, but the city's earmarked mine as a 23% jump. The assessor at the time said to me, I agree with you, I don't understand why your increase would be so high. So they asked me what I thought my market value should be. I said my argument is that looking at the average street value, it's gone up by 3%. So I said I can't really argue beyond that. That is my argument. So the assessor agreed to tack 3% onto my property value, changing it from 265 times 1.03 to 273. This past winter, I again met with the city, basically presenting them the same information as I presented 2 years ago, because that was what they agreed with me, as opposed to the various houses and comparative property sales that I showed them. This time I showed them again the average increase on my block for all of these houses, and again, this is city information, which is available on the property assessment page. The average increase for my block is 1.9%, but again, my house has been earmarked for a 21.6% increase. Now, we heard earlier another gentleman talking about how a 7% swing was a really high number. I would argue that to me a 7% swing is a small number relative to my 21.6% swing, which is over 300% times his number. Now, I am talking in percentages and not numbers right now. I have included one comparable, but it's not really the basis of my argument. The one comparable I present is, well, the one that I'm going to speak about is a lot closer to my house than any of the comparables that you pulled up. And I can understand why this didn't come as a comparable, because this house is much larger than mine. The square footage is about 50% larger than mine.
Are you talking about 161?
Now I'm talking about, 86 Tamarind Drive.
86?
Yeah.
Okay, got it, okay.
So,
And it's sold for 310, right?
yeah, and it's sold for 310. I realize it's 2016, but the sale date is November 30th.
Mhm.
You know, to me, I would say that's 2017. Like I said, this house is 50% larger than mine. The lot is around 50% larger than mine. If you flip 2 pages beyond the cover sheet for that, there is the map of where it's located. I don't know how well it shows up on yours, but the highlighted one is the property in question. That was evaluated by the city at $350, which sold for $310. My house is also shown on this map. On SR, it is the house listed at $265,000. So again, this one is extremely close to my house. From the property map, sorry, I just hold this up so the panel can see the sheet I'm referencing. This house is extremely close to mine. It backs onto a creek. So to me, it's a much more desirable property than mine, which backs onto a back lane. I guess that is pretty much the end of my presentation. And my argument is mostly on the over 20% increase in evaluations.
So the value that you're seeking?
Well, we heard earlier that, to me, my initial argument with the city was, if my whole street on average is increasing by 1.9%, that's what I was looking for when I met with them, which ended up being $278,000. You know, but again, I'd also refer you to the city webpage, which talks about property values over the past 2 years. And again, that magic number is 0.5% per month, which maxes out at 3.6%.
And that's your presentation?
Yep.
Okay. Questions of the applicant?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. DeLego?
Yes, when did you buy the house or did you inherit it?
I bought the house,
Yeah. When did you buy it?
2014,
And how much did you pay?
265.
260.
Actually, sorry, it might have been 262, but we'll say 265.
Ms. Rampo?
I have no questions, thank you.
Summation, either party? Mr. Ramsden?
I beg your pardon?
Summation?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anything further?
No,
Thank you for your patience and thank you for your presentation and results very soon.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, the last one on the docket, Victoria Avenue East, 807.
Finally.
Yeah. All right, we'll have you sworn in or affirmed. Thank you.
Thanks.
Please state your full name. And you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any evidence for this panel?
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not even gonna guess, I know this is your first time here, right?
Yep, for sure.
I know because of your evidence, I mean, this is not something that we need. I
Yeah,
hope that the other additional information that I left with you to all the pages are going to be helpful next time around.
yep.
Alright, okay. Okay, alright, 807 Victoria Avenue, one-story, single-family home, a little bit of subject property. First of all, the rule number 09-00-143-5000. A little of the subject property is a one-story, single-family home, it was built in 1964. And it is 1,014 square feet, full basement, and there's some development in the basement. Got a double detached garage, 5,249 square feet is the size of the lot, and it's $267,000 is the assessed value. Comparable number 1 of the 4 comparables that I have here on 428 Mid Lake Street. It's a one-story single-family home. It was built around the same time. It's smaller. It is 944 square feet. Full basement with some finishing in the basement. It's got the same size of lot, and it does show there is a park influence here at $256,000 for a value. Comparable number 231 Bayview Drive, one-story single-family home, built in 1967. This is slightly smaller than that, is subject property as well. There is some development in the basement. 5,544 square feet is the lot size, which is about the same. And $259,000 is the value of this one here. The third comparable, 815 Victoria Avenue East, which is going to be a stone throw from that of the subject property. 1964 year built, and I would say considerably smaller than that of this subject, 925 square feet. 5,248 square feet is the lot size, and $258,000 is the value on the third comparable. And the last one, again on 803 on Victoria, probably one house separating it from that of the subject property. One story single family home built in the same year, has about the same size. Excuse me. Has some development in the fully finished basement, but doesn't have a garage. Same lot size at $277,600. Judging from the value in the last comparable, which is the highest one and the small and the same size of the home, might appear a little bit superior to that of the subject property. They are indeed very close in terms of value. The only one that is has the same lots, same size of the house is the last one, but slightly more expensive with no garage. The comparables that we have here certainly support the value somewhat. Considering though that the property was sold in 2015, which is not really very far away from the April 1st, 2000 and April 1st reference date, $267,000, we're looking at an increase, and that would be probably a little bit on the high side, and so therefore you might think that although didn't look closely at MLS or any such thing, I don't know if they're sold in MLS, to determine the condition or the quality of this subject property in comparison to the other ones. That basically is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the assessor?
Is it fair to assume that what you guys are assessing it at is what would be sold, like fair market, if I were to have sold it April 1st of 2018, correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay, I bought this house 2015. I bought it for $232,000. It's now assessed at $263,000. We're going for 2 years, 3 years after I bought the house. I realized I should have printed out a whole bunch more of this, but I took a looked into what the pricing on bungalows in Winnipeg went up. And the answer I came across in 2018 was by the end of the fourth quarter, a bungalow in Winnipeg was going up at about 3.2% per year. And I have an increase between what I bought it for, which was, and what it was assessed at. I know you said that doesn't really count what you assessed it at previously, but that's 14.5% as opposed to 6, so it's almost double what it was. As for all your comparisons, I know it's all except for the one is about $10,000 less. And I didn't bring a printout of it, but my next door neighbor, he's got a bigger house. He's got a newly renovated house. His garage is brand new. And he's assessed at $13,000 less. It's kind of got me started with looking into this. Also the end street on the block, and when they built Victoria, like all these 1014, I'm sure you can assume, they're all identical houses. They're just flipped backwards and whatnot. So every second or third house is an identical match to mine, only the lot size differ, really. And if you go to the very end of the street, they're going from anywhere from, well, you got this one here that's $10,000 more, but they also drop to the point of $20,000 less. And I don't know how to conclude this statement.
So what do you think the assessment should be? What do you're here this morning and you're seeking what value for your property?
I think that a 14.5% increase is higher than it should be when, like I was going off your assessment, so a 6% increase would be 233 to 263, that's 30,000, half that, 15-ish thousand more than that. Is that roughly correct?
So you're around 250,
Somewhere's in that vicinity.
247?
I'd say 250, 250 is good, but
Okay.
not just shy of 270.
And that's what you're seeking?
I'd be completely fine with that.
Okay. I thank you. No questions? Mr. DeLego?
None.
Mr. Russell? Ms. Russell?
None, thank you.
I just, okay, so just for the record, 250. Is that what you're seeking?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah. Okay. So you would be happy with that? All right, summation either party? No? No? Thank you for coming this morning. Thank you for your patience.
thanks for your time.
And results very soon. You okay?
Is that something you want me to wait around for?
No.
No.
Okay.
No,
My
no.
coffee change ran out 5 minutes ago.
Oh, go,
Better
go,
go.
go,
Quick,
go,
run.
go.
All right.
So thank you.
guys.
Results in the mail, okay?
Thank you.
I think that concludes our hearing. We will take a recess and then we'll come back and we'll do the rest of it.
Okay.
Call the meeting back to order. And we will go to 37 Baxter Bay.
That's withdrawn.
Yes, but read us the address.
I wouldn't have it because I didn't,
That was
second I may have it.
It's
Oh, I'm
withdrawn.
sorry, I'm sorry,
It's
yeah.
withdrawn, once it's
Okay,
withdrawn, we don't.
I'm
do it.
sorry, okay.
Okay.
We'll do number 2, you can read the roll number and the address.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
and you want me to give you a brief description of the
No,
thing, nothing?
no,
Okay.
you can read the
All right,
address, roll number,
okay.
and the assessed value.
Okay, the 645 Green Avenue, 0202 203 9000.
Excuse me.
one story, $315,000. I ask that you confirm this.
Okay. We'll go on to Grassy Boulevard, 132. Address, roll number, and assessed value.
132 Grassy Boulevard, 0400-6489000. One story, $305,000 assessed value. I ask that you confirm this.
We might as well do them in order here. So 1502 Molson Street, we can do the address, roll number, and the rec.
Okay. 1502 Molson, roll number 0400-2913500. One story home, $334,000 assessed value, recommended $327,000 accepted. As per telephone conversation, verified by email, which I think you might have.
I thank you. Now in regards to 30 Tackleberry Way, we are going to, I will read the roll number and,
Which one are you referring to now?
okay,
One,
Tackleberry,
two,
that,
okay.
Number 7.
number 7. Roll number 0400-7259-845. The address is 30 Tackleberry Way. It is adjourned,
Oh, okay.
okay?
Mhm.
We'll go to 112 Colross Bay.
All right. 112 Colross Bay, 0900-594-2900. It's a 4-level split, $336,000. I ask that you, oh, wait a second. I believe that's our recommendation.
Yes.
I recommended $316,000 as per telephone and email confirmation
Okay.
or verification.
We'll go on to 210 DeGraff Bay. Address, the roll number and assessed value.
Okay, 210 DeGraff Bay, roll number 0400-7793100. One story home, $1,316,000. I ask that you confirm that.
Okay. We'll go to item number 15. We'll do roll number, address, and assessed value.
And that would be
Number 15,
500 and
96,000. Roll number. I'm not sure how you have them, Dutchin.
hold on, what's that?
Number 15.
215
Oh, 15.
Monroe.
Oh, 15, did you not? Okay, that's right, 215.
That,
Oh, 215 Monroe.
Yeah.
Okay. 215 Monroe. Phone number 02007 96000. One story, $189,000. I ask that you confirm that.
okay. And we'll go to the last one, which is number 16. You can read the roll number and address and the record.
Number
16?
248,
Okay.
Sydney. Rule number 020101090000. One story with $239,000 assessed value. Recommended $192,000. It was accepted and verified by email.
Mr. Razawat, very nice job. Thank you very kindly. I think that concludes our business.
Thank you very
So
much.
thank you. Okay. You can shut the phone off or the microphone.
Now you turned it on.
Everything.
No, I didn't speak into it.
You want
I did